If you are a Bitcoin or crypto geek who's been around long before everything kind of exploded over the course of the pandemic, you'd know that this industry is all about risks. They are everywhere and indispensable, and only if you have the will and trust in yourself that your investment will grow once these risks are gone will you truly reap the fruits of the seeds you sow. You may have also heard what I'm going to say next from either myself or other crypto channels here on YouTube, but everything is a cycle. One moment you're seeing all green, the next you're surrounded by red. Also, it may sound weird to those who have not had their fair share of experience in crypto, but everyone loves a little bit of downfall in the stats because it usually comes with really rewarding increases. Everyone, well almost everyone, stays for that. This is Diversified Streams, your go-to YouTube channel for all things crypto. If you haven't subscribed yet, click the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the latest news and tips related to crypto. And make sure to keep your notifications on so you'll be updated with our latest videos. We post frequently so you wouldn't want to miss it. In today's video, we'll be talking about the next Bitcoin crash, the next big moment in crypto. Is it really within hand's reach? Or will it take a few more months before it finally happens? If you guys have watched the news and are up to date in all things crypto just like us, you'd know the recent interview of Bitcoin expert Brian Kelly. In the interview, the current behavior of Bitcoin was assessed and looked into, where the expert gave his own understanding of what's in store for all of us Bitcoin enthusiasts. He says that it is generally good news as we seem to be nearing the generational bottom. But it is not as easy as it sounds because, according to Kelly, the ideal value of Bitcoin to truly rise above the slump is somewhere between 10 to 15K. And it's not the only factor that we need. Another point worth considering is the inflation expectations picking up, as well as the likelihood of central banks making a policy error. Now, these factors really are not impossible to reach as they have happened before, but they are nonetheless still needed in order for us to get back to the all-time highs in Bitcoin. Now, as these perceptions of the current market are from a Bitcoin market expert, it is not merely an assumption but is actually based on the prevailing conditions in the market. This may be the reason why, despite the sell pressure felt in huge projects such as Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, and 3 Arrow Capital, 3AC, there is still a much-needed push to really ensure that one golden opportunity to thrive once more. Kelly also went on to say that due to these factors that need to be seen before the great push, the big crash we all are waiting for is not coming anytime soon. In fact, it might even still be months away. He further explains this claim, suggesting it to be a Lehman Brothers moment that is bound to happen in a few months' time. This moment is not happening anytime soon because of how volatile the current conditions of the market are. Big projects are going bankrupt. Collateral pledged against collateral is creating a domino effect on the repercussions of losing assets in this game of risks. From what Brian Kelly has told us so far, it does seem like the current conditions do not exhibit a Lehman Brothers moment occurring in a few days' time. But hey, what do you guys think about all of this? Do you agree that it might take a few months before the big flush? Or do you think the opposite? Let us know your thoughts down below and let's start a discussion in the comments. And while you're at it, don't forget to give us a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you will be notified of our future uploads. So going back to the big flush that all of us Bitcoiners have been dying to see, I have to say that all of what was discussed previously can really happen and we are on track to seeing them materialize over time. It is probable that the value of Bitcoin will fall down to 10K, but we also need to look at it through a different lens, considering the amount of sell pressure exhibited in Bitcoin and Ethereum recently. These changes are huge enough to not be excluded from the equation. This pressure has been felt initially in some projects like Luna, Celsius, BlockFi, and 3 Arrow Capital, and it is also felt in other projects that are less known and more private in nature. Sure, the 10K mark is not an impossible value to reach, but the sell pressure that comes along with this dwindling value is frightening. And the risks grow even more ginormous as the value decreases. In the case of 3 Arrows, for instance, it is not only the project's money that was lost, but they also lost the money of other people and institutions who had connections with the project. The financial damage was too much to handle that they gave in to the pressure of acquiring back some of the money by selling all of their Bitcoin and Ethereum. Let's dig deeper into the case of Three Arrows Capital, as they seem to be having it much worse compared to the other projects today, and see what we can learn from it. We will be referring to the chopping block on Laura Shin's Unchained podcast, which you may watch in full on her YouTube channel. From what was discussed in the podcast, the case of Three Arrows is seemingly much worse than others, and it is not because they simply lost money. In business, it's normal to lose money as it can be a gamble, and sometimes you go home with your pockets full, sometimes you're a loser. But this is not the case for Three Arrows, because they kept on borrowing from other people without telling how deep they are in on their current predicament. So when they borrowed so much money from so many people and still did not manage to overcome the obstacle, they, unfortunately, went into a state of negative equity. These people and entities were dragged onto the issue by simply lending money to Three Arrows, which was already on its way to a really dark situation. When an entity is declared as having negative equity, it is something that's so much worse than actually having none. It is because your losses are way too overwhelming that it is reflected in other people's balance sheet. The damage is not directed towards you alone, but also by others. And in the case of Three Arrows, these are the lenders who got dragged into the issue because they tried to lend money to the project. Some of the lenders of Three Arrows include BlockFi, Genesis, Voyager, and Celsius, whose credit was under-collateralized because of how penniless the project they invested in is. For the banks, this situation is as bad as it can get because everything is too risky, and they have no choice but to strengthen their policies and recall some of the loans they granted to other people just so they do not get dragged into this mess. The truth of the matter is, nobody wants to be indebted, let alone be dragged into debt for extending credit, especially in crypto. When the banks decide on recalling their loans, people will get margin called, and when this happens, some people might not have enough cash that is readily available in order to cover the loans, leaving them with no choice but to sell their assets. Imagine this phenomenon happening to a lot of people at the same time. It is truly a chaotic situation to be in. Not only that, but we also need to factor in liquidity, as those market makers who are responsible for trying to keep the markets liquid will have difficulty in doing so once loans get recalled and they do not have the capacity to overcome such things. What we are looking for at the end of this Three Arrow story is something grim for most crypto enthusiasts. And we have seen its manifestations over the last couple of weeks, banks losing, loans getting recalled, and selling pressure getting intense by the day. Amid all of this though, it is still possible for a Lehman Brothers moment to happen in the next couple of months. We may already be at the generational bottom of Bitcoin, or we may not be, but there's still a pretty high possibility for a giant final flush to happen, and when it does, it will be a really great buying opportunity for all, whether you're a pro in crypto or a newbie. Bitcoin at 19K today is not a bad value. But if you trust what the experts say and can risk more time waiting for the value to go even lower, you can definitely realize great gains in the future. And there you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning into our channel and watching until the end of today's video. I hope today's discussion gave you something interesting insights. And if you have any to share, do not hesitate to put them down below. Do not forget to give us a big thumbs up if you liked this video, and your subscription is very much appreciated. This is Diversified Streams. See you in our next video.